Welcome back to the Multifamily Mind podcast. Today I had an incredible conversation with David Williams, the president and CEO of Entryway, a nonprofit organization dedicated to tackling two major issues: homelessness in the U.S. and employee turnover in multifamily. In this episode, you'll learn all about how Entryway's process works, who they are working with, and how you can get involved to do some good while doing good work with Entryway. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Multifamily Mind. I am your host, Steve Wunch, and I'm really honored today to have our guest with us. Today, we have David Williams, who is the CEO and president of a really cool nonprofit organization called Entryway. And some of you may be familiar, some of you may not, but I saw a post on LinkedIn where someone who's been through, and he'll explain this in just a few minutes, but someone who's been through their program put a really neat post on LinkedIn, and it really touched my heart. And so I reached out to David and his team and I said, hey, we got to get you guys on here because your platform is amazing. What you're doing in our space is amazing. So David, welcome to the show. So glad that you're here.
I'm glad to be here, Steve. Thank you for having me on.
You bet. So excited for our audience to learn a little bit more about Entryway and what it is that you guys do. So can you share just a little bit about the platform Entryway and what you guys are trying to solve for folks that are part of your organization?
Yeah, thank you. There are really two problems we're trying to solve. So the first is that on any given night in America, about 750,000 people experience homelessness. And that's it's just kind of a shocking number, but it is. But what's interesting about it is that the area of homelessness that most people think of, which is the most visible, are those that are chronically homeless. Okay. A lot of times those are folks that you see on the street corner and, they're asking for money. A lot of times they're dealing with issues around mental illness and addiction. But the majority of people that are experiencing homelessness are what we call situational homeless. And that means a situation has occurred, maybe a job loss, a health crisis, domestic situation, where if you don't have a safety net, you find yourself living in a shelter, living in your car, maybe living with friends temporarily, but you have a work history and you want to work. And it's just that, people don't realize that 60% of all Americans have less than $1,000 in savings. Mm-hmm. So just think about that for a second. It doesn't take much for life to all of a sudden go sideways. And, your car breaks down and you're choosing between the means by which you get to work or paying the rent or food or medicine. Yep. And so that's the population that we work with. So that's one problem or one area. The other is that the multifamily industry, as awesome as that industry is, it goes through a fair number of people at an entry level, a little bit of our name, Entryway, around positions in maintenance and leasing and groundskeeping. And then what's great about the industry is that not only does the industry provide employment, but it also houses people. Yes. And so our founder, Chris Finley, who is the CEO of Middleburg Communities. They are a developer and a manager of apartment communities, mostly in the Southeast. Just kind of put two and two together and said, why couldn't we solve an industry problem, solve a community problem by employing and housing individuals who are experiencing housing instability? And that's how the organization originally was Shelters to Shutters. Some of your listeners might remember that name. We just rebranded about a year and a half ago, and so now it's Entryway. A little easier to say, but that's what we do. And so we try to upskill people who are experiencing homelessness into jobs that are entry-level jobs within multifamily, and with the hope that they're going to be able to get out of the situation that they're in a sustainable way. But just as importantly, that they're going to be able to contribute significantly to the companies that they work for.
That's great. Amazing. And do you guys see a pretty good success rate for the folks that have gone through your program and say, ended up getting a job at a multifamily company, also getting an apartment, and they kind of stick with it?
We do. And so, of course, as you might imagine, we have a lot of people that apply. And so we have a pretty extensive vetting process. And so, one of the first steps is a background check. And I think as everybody on this broadcast knows, multifamily has some pretty strict rules around working and also being a resident within apartment communities. And so kind of unfortunately, some people are not the best fit. We then kind of have a series of assessments. One of the elements of our program is online learning, where we work with Grace Hill and SkillCat and Interplay. These are online learning platforms to help upskill individuals. Some people will start it, they won't complete it. We have partnerships with staffing agencies, Liberty, InterSolutions, BG Staffing, where we might get people placed in temporary roles. Okay. And then there's job shadowing and internships. All these things kind of combine to then working on their resume, working on their interviewing skills, so that we can put them in front of an industry partner who would want to hire them not because they're in a tough situation, but because they would be a great employee. And so that's our job. So when somebody gets all the way through that and they actually get hired, our tenure is twice the industry average. And so we're excited about that.
Okay, that's great. So you do a lot of, you mentioned upskilling, and you mentioned, Grace Hill, Interplay, and SkillCat, and some of those other learning opportunities. So you guys are actually helping these people get the skills and technical expertise that they need in order to be successful in like a role of a maintenance tech or a leasing consultant. So that's kind of cool for our audience to know. It's like, sometimes you wonder how much of the lift is placed on the property team when it comes to bringing some of these folks in and assimilating them into the organization, as well as the community. What percentage of folks who go through the program, if you have a number, can you share how many folks have actually successfully, landed that job and kind of stuck with it? Do you have any stats you can share?
We do. Yeah. So, let's see, if you start with the number of all the people that apply, and then individuals that ultimately at the very end receive both employment and housing. It's about 1 in 10. So I say that to say it's a pretty rigorous process. And again, it's just our process, but it's also the process of the industry. And so this is not something that's just, that it's just for everyone. The other thing I'll mention is on the training side, an important element is that in addition to our own training that we do, we also partner with community colleges and technical schools that are doing training in HVAC, plumbing, construction, electrical, all those types of skills. Because if you talk to any instructor, they'll tell you that they know of a couple people in their class, they're living out of their car while they're living with friends while they're going through that classroom. So anyway, we do a lot of our training ourselves, but then we also partner with people that, and it might be a Goodwill or a Salvation Army that has a workforce development element to their program. So our job is to partner where we can with. There are a lot of organizations out there doing great work, and we want to complement what they're doing, not compete with them in terms of what they're doing.
I love it. The phrase keeps coming to my mind. You give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. And I kind of think that feels to me sort of what the premise of this whole program is all about. Not only helping them get back up on their feet, from a housing standpoint, but providing them with this really great foundation that can become a career, and I think that's really cool. So get into a little bit more brass tacks when it comes to, say, I've got listeners out there today who are interested. You talked about your vetting process, and I know that you guys go through, just probably a more extensive vetting process than even multifamily operators do to qualify for someone to live at a property. But can you kind of just explain a little bit about that vetting process to let our audience know that when these folks are coming through their doors to potentially work at the community or potentially live at the community, it's a low risk opportunity for them to help somebody get back up on their feet again?
Yeah, absolutely. And so when somebody applies, first of all, most of them will apply through an organization. So it's almost like that's the first vetting that takes place, because we have agreements with the Goodwills and the Salvation Armies and the Atlanta Tech and all these organizations. And we talk about our program. We talk about the challenges of working within multifamily. And so, so that's the first thing, because typically we'll get a call from, say, a case manager that'll say, we've got an individual, we've been working with them for the past year, or they came into our program 60 days ago. I think they would be a good fit for your program. So that's the first one. So then the second is that then they apply. We immediately do the background check. We have a company in Habit, Resident IQ. They actually donate hundreds of background checks for us, which is got to give a plug to companies that support us. Way to go! Yeah, that's awesome. It is awesome because they're very extensive checks, and it's great. So then we use an AI tool for the interviewing process, and so there are a series of questions that they need to answer, and we have a national person that will then kind of make an evaluation based on that interview. If they believe they're potentially a good fit, they then will forward it to a local executive director. So we will be launching in our 13th market in Columbus, Ohio here soon. So we have 13 executive directors around the country that serve a certain region of the country. So it then goes to them. And of course, they know the industry partners that are in their area. They know the positions that are open and all that. So they'll interview that individual as well. And then we'll assign a job coach that will work on their resume, on their interviewing skills, on their soft skills, because we can train how to fix a faucet, right? And most people who manage and hire people know that very often that's not what gets them on a performance improvement plan or gets them fired. It's the soft skills. Yeah, for sure. We really try to work on those as well. But ultimately, and then there's on-the-job training, again, the job shadowing, the temporary work. We try to do that. They can get some money in their pockets. But ultimately, it's then time to put them forth. So we have 90 property management companies throughout the country. Certainly the really big ones, Greystar, RPM, Asset Living. But then you've got smaller regional, in some cases owner-operators or third-party management companies. And so they have open positions all the time. And so we want to work with their recruiters and their HR professionals to figure out how we are going to work best in their system. And everybody's got a little bit of a different one. And so as an example, if we were in North Carolina and we had 5 individuals that just completed a maintenance program with the Urban League, and we've done additional work with them, and we see that RPM has a couple openings for a maintenance tech 1, then we would direct those resumes to the recruiter. Now, of course, they can look at those resumes and say, you know what, they don't have enough experience, or they can make any decision that they want. But most of the time, they'll look at the resumes, and in some cases, they'll offer to do a virtual interview as a first interview. We also will have career fairs where it's kind of a speed dating kind of thing. We'll bring in 7 or 8 property management companies. We'll have about 12 or 14 applicants, and they can quickly go through some initial interviews. But if an offer is made, they will then go through the same vetting process as they would if they were hiring through ZipRecruiter or wherever. Okay. So they're still going to do their own background check. If they do drug testing, they're still going to do that. They're residents, so there's a chance they're going to do a credit check as well. But assuming they pass all that, then what we ask the industry partner to consider is that they would consider waiving the security deposit, that they would consider waiving the first 30 days of rent. Let the individual get a couple paychecks under their belt, and then that there would be a housing discount so that no more than 30% of their gross income is spent on rent. So that really depends on the class of the property, depends on the starting salary. So the standard 20%, which is the standard industry discount, if you're talking about a class B or C property in a mid-sized city, well, those numbers might work just fine. But if you're downtown in a major area and you're in a high-rise, and this is a grounds position or a housekeeping position, that discount might have to be 50 or 60%, something like that. And that it's for 1 year. And so, and if the person is still in the role at the end of a year, then we'll work with them to figure out if that discount goes away, where we could place them within a short distance of their work location. We have a partnership with Court Furniture. Court Furniture will fully furnish the apartment. They have a home essentials kit that has 200 items plus all the furniture. We're going to come up on $1 million in support that we've received from them over the years this year. So we're going to celebrate that. But it's an incredible partnership. So if you think about somebody moving out of a shelter or moving out of their car, or it's a great thing. So that's kind of the next step. We assign a mentor to the individual because, between the executive director and a mentor, we want a team of people that surrounds that individual who are committed to that person's success. We all need mentors in our life. We all need people who want us to succeed. We've all had them. And so that's an important element of our program. And then hopefully they do well and they'll graduate. So in 1 year, that's when people will graduate. It's, again, typically when the discount goes away, it's when the mentor relationship typically goes away. And we feel that at the end of a year, people they've been able to settle in and hopefully start on a whole new career in a great industry.
That's amazing. So I'm sitting here listening to you talk and thinking of all these questions that I want to ask you, and you keep answering them before I get the chance to ask them. So I really appreciate
shorter answers.
Hi, folks. I wanted to take a quick 30-second break so that I could say, I hope you're enjoying today's episode, which couldn't be brought to you without being superpowered by Sales Mail. I mean, really, we couldn't produce this content without them. Sales Mail is the easiest and best tool for sending personalized video via email, text, and CRM. So, if you really are enjoying today's episode, it would mean a lot to me if you would visit salesmail.com so you can check out how our solutions might impact your business communications. And don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn as well. Okay, that's enough. Now back to the conversation. No, I really appreciate you digging in and kind of really letting us know, the brass tacks of how the program works. Do you get a lot of pushback from owner operators when it comes to the platform, or do most seem to be pretty open to it?
I think at a C-suite level, people seem to be pretty open to it. Okay. And so the challenge, when there are challenges, sometimes the housing discount is a challenge because, these are communities that are owned by, in some cases, private equity, in other cases, and so what I would say is that, look, in just about every apartment community out there, there's some vacancy. There's no, if you're above 93% or something, everybody's usually pretty happy, which means you've got some empty apartments. Yeah. But that's not how some people see it. And so they see the money. If a 50% discount is being applied, well, that's money that's not, going to the ownership of the organization. So I would say that's one pushback. The second is, no matter how much we talk about situational homelessness, the visible aspect of homelessness are the chronically homeless. And so when you say the word homeless, the image that perception. And so the question is, do I want that person as an employee? Do I want that person as a resident? So I think that is an obstacle that has to be overcome. I would say that with the population that we work with, it's a vulnerable population. And so sometimes, and this is the gray area where there are experiences in the criminal justice system. They might be as misdemeanors. They might have been a long time ago.
Yeah.
Some people's credit are, not all that great. And so, those are barriers. Sometimes even a driver's license is a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. For some folks, it would be. Do you guys partner with any like guarantor programs or people who underwrite the lease to guarantee that there will be, some sort of financial payback if things do go awry?
Yeah. Now, see, you were reading my mind because I was just about to answer that. So, yes, we've got a great partnership with a company called One App Guarantee. And so they, and it's a great partnership because if a company is listening, we have a partnership with them that if you were to sign up with One App Guarantee, they'll actually make a $2,500 gift to Entryway. So they support us philanthropically, but on top of that, they also support us from a mission standpoint. So that if we did have somebody whose credit was not ideal, then they will come alongside us to be able to help them, get into stable housing and employment and all of that.
And you guys have like local people. I know you mentioned, some regional directors that are around, the country and the different markets that you operate in. And audience, we'll make sure that you know how to get a hold of Entryway, how to get to their website, how to really do your good due diligence if you do have some interest in the program. And there's a couple of other things that I want to ask you about in that regard as well, David. But I really love, it seems what you guys are doing is like you take care of all these other details so that these folks can really focus on, learning this trade, really ramping up their skills, whether they be technical skills or soft skills, so that they're able to stay focused on, becoming a better version of themselves in order to present to an prospective employer, hey, I'm someone that you want to hire. And I think that's admirable. I just, this whole program, I get goosebumps when I think about it. And, when we first talked with you, and you submitted your form for the podcast, you used the term, doing good work while doing good, and that's really evident in what you guys do with this platform. I know when I was on your website, I saw that there's, several different events happening all across the country and different markets that you guys are in. So for operators who are out there listening, maybe some of our supplier partners who are listening, what are some ways if they can't, fully embrace the whole program and bring somebody from shutters to shelter, how can they get involved in some of these other things that you guys have going on?
Yeah. So the great thing about the multifamily industry is it's multifaceted and we've really benefited from all areas. So, for example, the vendor or the supplier community, to be successful in this industry, you got to hustle. These guys hustle. Men and women hustle. And so a number of people serve on what we call our city advisory boards.
Okay.
And so we're in 13 markets across the country. And these city advisory boards, I would guess 95% of the people that serve on these boards are in multifamily. They work for property management companies, they work for suppliers, they work for developers, they work for ownership groups. And so, I've always said the two things. One is multifamily is a $3 trillion industry, but it's a very small industry.
Yeah.
Like, people know each other. People have been in it for a long time.
It's a big, small world.
Oh my God. And so many people that are now in the C-suite, and this is why I think this resonates with so many folks, so many people that were in the C-suite, they started 25 years ago as maybe as a part-time leasing consultant, as a side gig, while they were, maybe they didn't know what they were going to do after high school. Maybe they were in college and they did it as a side job. So they really understand the situation that some of our folks are in. Some of the people have been, they've told me as I've welcomed them to the organization, that if there was an Entryway around when I was, 25 years ago, I would have qualified. And so I think that there's people resonate with the mission, because the second part of it is that this is also an industry where if you work hard, like, you don't have to have a master's or a PhD to be in the C-suite of a company. If you work hard, there are so many people that started off in maintenance or leasing or wherever, and they just kept at it. And so I think there's going to be a day where the person doing this podcast, who's the president of Entryway, is somebody that started off in the Entryway program, I
love it.
Now, 20 years from now. And so it's one of those things that I think, and it's not lost on these individuals, that it doesn't have to just be a good first start. This could be a career if that's something that you want. Yeah. And so often these kind of entry-level jobs are kind of dead-end jobs. Yeah. But that is not the case in multifamily. And that's one more reason why this is a good thing.
Yeah, I love it. Talk a little bit, if you can, specifically about, one of the things that made this top of mind for me is earlier last week, Kim Cross posted that she's sponsoring a Topgolf event in the Dallas market, and it's specifically to benefit Entryway. So what are some of the things that you guys are doing to partner with either owner operators or supplier partners in some of the events that you guys are doing across the country?
Yeah, we've got a big concert in Austin coming up in just a couple weeks. We've got a songwriters event in Nashville coming up in a couple weeks. You mentioned Topgolf. Topgolf is we have Topgolf events all across the country. And so in all the markets that we're in, just about everyone has a Topgolf event. And the great thing about Topgolf, you don't even have to like golf. I mean, it's just, it's fun. It's casual. You know, sometimes people get a little tired having to get in the tux and a dress, and you don't have to worry about that with Topgolf. And of course, we have the kind of the breakfasts and the luncheons and things like that. But we're in 13 markets. It's mostly the Sun Belt. We are going into Columbus, Ohio next quarter, which we're excited about. But yeah, special events are kind of a backbone for our funding. And the nice part about that is that it's kind of a win-win from a standpoint of, if you're a company in multifamily, you can sponsor a bay or a foursome or whatever. You get your name out there, you get to interact with people that you do business with, and you get to support a great cause.
Well, I hope folks are listening, supplier partners specifically, because there's a great opportunity to step in and really make a difference. Is there any other way folks can get involved with Entryway besides these, different kind of fundraising events that you have, or sponsoring somebody to be a part of the program?
Yeah, thanks for, I should have finished the answer to that question. So I mentioned earlier that mentors are a big part. And so those mentors are volunteers. We also have what we call job coaches. So that's a little bit more on the front end, where you're really coaching somebody. Like, we'll do mock interviews. We'll examine somebody's resume and help them rewrite it so that it's putting their best foot forward. So these are all volunteer functions that we have so many people that just, they want to get their hands dirty. They want to work directly with an individual. And of course, in a case like this, you're helping somebody in the right way. Kind of, we're going back to the how to fish again. But you're helping somebody take that next step. And it's really gratifying, because again, you're working with a motivated group of people. They might be in a tough spot, but they're also motivated to. Yeah,
they sure as heck don't want to stay there.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I love this. I mean, it really aligns with, there's a lot of talk in the multifamily universe around ESG, environmental, social, and governance. And, this is a definite win for the social piece as well as the environment. I mean, getting people off the streets and into a safe community where they can call home. And I know there's a lot of investors in the space that look for companies who do have a philanthropic arm to their organization, or a way to give back to the communities that they serve. And I know that our demographic, the biggest one in the marketplace right now, those Gen Zers, really yearn to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And so for our audience, I really want you to really sit back and regurgitate this episode, maybe play it through another time and just listen for some ways that you or your company or your property could potentially get involved with Entryway. I'm really excited because this is the first time ever that we're going to be able to do something really audacious. We use that word here at the podcast to embody kind of, the good side of audaciousness, which is, fearlessly brave, reckless. They're going to do something, climb that mountain, spelunk that cave like an explorer would do. And audaciously, we're going to invite you back, David, to join us for another episode where you're going to bring a couple of folks who have gone through the program and experienced firsthand. We'll let them tell their stories. And I think that that'll be a great way for us to kind of circle back around and put a nice bow on what it is that Entryway does, how it's impacting and improving the lives of folks who are finding themselves in situational homelessness and what we can do as a multifamily family to lift them up. So really love what you guys are doing. Thank you so much for your time. And we look forward to getting you back on with a couple of your friends.
Yeah, and I'm excited about that too. I just came back from a conference where I spoke about our program, and I brought one of our participants up on stage. And for the rest of the conference, people came up to me and said, well, I'll tell you what, you need to take that guy with you everywhere you go. And it just reminded me that they probably didn't remember anything I said, but they're not going to forget him. And it's the power of speaking first person. And, he was able to convey, in a compelling way, just the impact that the program has had on him. And so I'm excited that we're going to be able to do that here in a little bit.
Yeah, me too. Stories. Nothing multifamily people love better than getting a good case study. So we will very much look forward to that. Again, we'll make sure folks know how to find Entryway and all the ways that they can get involved with you now. But we look forward to having you back soon, my friend. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Look forward to it too.
You bet. This has been Steve Wunch and David Williams on the Multifamily Mind, brought to you by Sales Mail, the easiest way to send personalized video via email, text, and CRM. We will see you next time. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Multifamily Mind podcast, brought to you by Sales Mail, the easiest way to send personalized video via email, text, and CRM. To learn more, go to salesmail.com. And remember, always be audacious. Until next time, I'm Steve Wunch. Have a great week.